Greetings, YouTube. I was poking around on Google recently. I believe I was looking up a Pathfinder magic item of some variety or other. And in the process, I stumbled upon a list. And this is the list of magic items found on uh, Wikipedia, specifically historical magic items. So, for example, the armor of Achilles, created by Hephaestus and said to be impenetrable. The armor of Ovar Udur, an impenetrable silken mail coat, just silken mail, I guess. So, dwarven, elven or drow mail of some variety. The green armor protects the wearer from physical injuries, Arthurian legend. That's a very broad kind of power right there. Then we get into specific things like helmets, and then into like the headgear from Greek mythology, the Cap of Invisibility, a classic item. Did we see that in one of the movies? Can't remember if we ever saw the Cap of Invisibility. We've seen the Cloak of Invisibility. Then we have the shields from Arthurian legend, shields from the Greco-Roman mythology, shields from Hindu mythology, gauntlets. There's only one entry for that, which is the yarn grouper, a pair of iron gauntlets used for the god Thor. I'm sure I've said that wrong. I remember those. I remember those. Then we have in the crowns, belts, girdles, veils, caps and hats, garments, footwear, robes, the robe of the fire rat, a legendary robe of China that is made of fireproof fur of the fire rat, one of the Kajuye Hime suitors set to search for the suitors set out to search for the robes. The seamless robe of Jesus. Wow, the robe is said to have been worn by Jesus during or shortly before his crucifixion. That'd be kind of massively important, useful for a crusade era type of a campaign. Pants and shirts, the shirts of Nessus, the poison shirt that killed Hercules. We get into some more classic things like specific weapons. The Pasha, a supernatural weapon depicted in Hindu iconography, is said to bind a foe's arms and legs or for hunting animals. That's kind of broad. Magic wand found in the hands of powerful fairies. Interestingly, they associate magic wand specifically with the Fae. Then we have sword, the Chrysor, the golden sword of Sir Antigol in the Fairy Queen. It is tempered with adamant, and it would cleave through anything. So your classic indestructible, uber sharp sword. Flaming sword, a sword glowing with flame by some supernatural power. They're kind of, sorry, I'm icky. They're kind of a dime a dozen. War's great sword, the second of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, rides on a red horse. Is War, a great sword was given to him, Christian mythology. Now, what would War's sword do? That would be dangerous. The Cosgark Moor, which is from Celtic, I believe. Great triumphant one sword of Oscar. Orna, the sword of the Fomorian king Tethra, which recounts the deeds done with it when unsheathed. It was taken by Ogma and then recounted everything it had done. Going to be a little winded after a time now, isn't it? It's like your career gets longer. Every time you draw the sword, it's going to start this litany of things. I'd rather have a magic sword that just made me better at combat, but that's just me. I'm funny that way. Sword from the Anglo-Saxon mythology, specifically. Then we have swords from Matter of Britain. Clarent, a sword of peace meant for knighting and ceremony as opposed to battle, which was stolen and then used to kill Arthur by Mordred. Excalibur, of course, that's in there. Galantine, the name of the sword given to Sir Gawain by the Lady of the Lake. So you get the point. This is a huge list of magic items of all varieties. And because they're historical, it's going to have a bit more depth to them, and they're going to sit a little more firmly in a world if you're doing an historical setting, as opposed to just a generic, +1 frost brand or something. And also, it'll help you to create magic items for your world, specific to your world. And you can just take these and file off the serial numbers and reuse them, of course. But it'll also give you this style of myths around the items that are often missing from the texts that we read in role-playing games. They're very dry, they're very numbers oriented, and there's a reason for this. I mean, it makes sense. The Encyclopedia Magica is an example of lots of these kind of entries. It's one of the reasons that I've been talking about it in their own videos. But this is set from history. Some of these items I know have or will show up in the other book, but this is going to be far more up-to-date, more inclusive than this Encyclopedia Magica will be, because let's face it, the guys that wrote early D&D were white dudes, and they had a very white dude-centric worldview. I've read enough of the history to realize that the hobby was deeply, deeply white dude, middle-class white dude. And it was not inclusive in the least. So having a list like this is going to cover far more cultures than will a reference like that. Alrighty, so again, a resource for you, links, I'll put the link for this list in the notes, and maybe you will find it useful. I think it's fascinating. It's the kind of thing you can just scan through and be inspired in so many ways.